And I'm very happy to see all of you here. We are going to begin the program today. I am Raju, my name is Raju, and I'm one of the organizers of the event today, where we are paying tribute both to a great singer and peace activist, Paul Robeson, but also to the Indian peace movement. And we will hear a lot from our different speakers today about the history of the Indian peace movement and its importance today. The event is being organized by the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization. The All India Peace and Solidarity Organization is an old organization. It has a long and glorious history. It was founded in 1951 as the All India Peace Council. And it associated with the World Peace Council, an organization that was formed as a result of many forces coming together because they felt the need for peace in that time. In 1951, you can imagine there was a threat of nuclear war for the first time, and the World Peace Council conducted activities around the world to stop war, to struggle against colonialism, continuing colonialism, and to struggle for peace. Some of the original members of the All India Peace Council include such people as Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu, who was one of the leaders in Amritsar before the Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened, and D.D. Kosambi, who was a scientist, writers like Krishan Chandra, Rajendra Singh Bedi, poets like Wallathol, many other freedom fighters associated with it, people like Aruna Asaf Ali, Rameshwari Nehru, and for a long time it was led by two people who we are also honoring today. Romesh Chandra at the global level in the World Peace Council, he served as the president, and Perin Chandra, who in the national level led the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization. So today we also want to honor Romesh and Perin Chandra and all that they have done. So a lot of you have seen it already, but we have a few pictures there to show you something about Romesh and Perin Chandra, but also about Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was one of the founders of the World Peace Council itself. Before we begin, I would just like to say that the motto of All India Peace and Solidarity Organization is that peace is everybody's business, and we feel that is very true today. We have people from various different places and organizations, and I want to thank many of these organizations that have been so generous in helping this event take shape, which includes the All India Trade Union Congress, the Chitrakala Parishath, the Gandhi Study Circle of Seshadripuram College, the Bangalore Musical Association, about which I'll tell you more later. They'll perform. So this is a coalition of organizations, I think all of whom have been very generous and have made a contribution to the struggle for peace. So I'll just start off by asking Nandita to read our vision statement for why we are doing this event today.
Hello everybody. This year marks the 125th birth anniversary of artist, scholar and revolutionary Paul Robeson. We honor Paul Robeson as a man who exemplified the possibilities and the potentialities for all of humanity. We celebrate him as a man who knew and scientifically studied the cultures of the world to find among them commonalities and resonances. Robeson believed in the unity of the world's working people and theorized that their music reflected a universal humanism. He also believed that the struggle for a national culture was integral to the struggle for peace. We embrace Paul Robeson as an African American who was formed by their struggle for freedom and also as a true spiritual citizen of the world. We seek to honor his legacy so that we can continue it and understand its significance for our times. In 2023, the Indian people are at a turning point. The world order is getting reconfigured and its center is moving towards Asia The rise of countries in Asia and Africa represents a reconfiguration of humanity as humanity moves towards its natural center. We are transitioning from the age of Europe to the age of humanity. The deepening crisis in the Western world has caused the Western powers to reach out to India as an ally. On the other hand, India is positioned to be a participant along with other Asian and African nations in organizations such as BRICS and SCO, which can further the birth of a new world order. We Indians, inherit a glorious legacy of being a civilization of peacemakers. The Indian peace movement represented some of the best of the Indian freedom struggle. Freedom fighters who saw clearly the undeniable link between peace and a people's democracy. Today, we celebrate Paul Robeson, and we also honor two of our own freedom fighters, Romesh and Perinchandra. The need for a peace movement is urgent in our times, as we must decide which direction we will take as a nation. It is the peace movement that must take up the responsibility of educating and engaging with the people. Peace is a precondition for development, creation of jobs, poverty elimination, and a true democracy. Peace is a prerequisite for national sovereignty and the self-determination of a people. Peace is not a weak or sentimental demand, but a call to action that allows us to stand bravely against neocolonialism and war. Lastly, it has been the mantle of the peace movement to speak for the brotherhood of all men and facilitate dialogue and exchange between the world's people in the face of a divisive neocolonialism and imperialism. We live in times when the world is moving towards a new human age. As we are faced with profound global and human challenges, it is our task today to build a new and peaceful democratic world order. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandita. Next, we would like to play a tribute video that we have prepared for Paul Robeson, for which we have reached out to three people around the world. One in the US in Philadelphia, a scholar of Paul Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois. One in China, who also has had a long involvement in the peace movement and is also a scholar, and one in India, as you will see, who was also a historian of the Indian cultural movement. And so from all three of them, we prepared a short video as a tribute to Paul Robeson.
Paul Robeson was beloved by humanity. He had transcended national borders and had become as we would say, a tribune of all peoples fighting for freedom and democracy, be they in the United States, the Welsh miners, the Spanish fighters for democracy during the fight against fascism. He defended the Soviet Union. He was, from the very outset of his conscious political life, a fighter for the freedom of African nations. He was a champion of the Indian independence movement, of Gandhi, of Nehru, of the Chinese revolutionaries. I don't think we have ever seen in this country, and maybe in the world, a political figure who so embraced the aspirations of humanity as did Paul Robeson.
At a personal level, the person called Paul Robeson entered my life when I was fairly young. I mean, when I was in my teens, listening to Bistirno Dopare or Himango Bishas's song about Paul Robeson. And then also, subsequently, of course, listening to a lot of his music, listening to his speeches, and understanding his thoughts and all of that. Paul Robeson has been a very important figure in terms of my own shaping as somebody who's engaged with cultural politics in this country.
Although Paul Robeson never visited China, the Chinese people have a good memory of him from the moment he sang the song March On of Volunteers for an audience of 7,000 at an open concert held in New York City in the year 1940, when fierce battles raging on in China against invading Japanese army, which had then already occupied northern China and eastern China. Paul Robeson said, "I want to finish this concert with the Chinese song March On, a song for the struggling Chinese people." He received stormy applause from the audience. It's the first time the Chinese patriotic song, this very song, was sung in a foreign country. Madame Song Qingling, widow of Dr. Sun Yat-sen, the founding father of the Republic of China, was deeply moved and touched by the resonant, emotionally charged voice of Robeson, and she wrote in the disc jacket of the songs, "From the songs immensely popular among the people, China has found a new strength against invaders, and the voice speaks for the peoples of all nations. It had become a bond uniting all peoples struggling for freedom."
He sought to know the essence of the great civilizations of the world. And that essence for him was to be discovered in the folk traditions, the music, the art, the food, the languages of the people. So he learned all of these languages so that he could sing the songs of many peoples in their languages. It is estimated that he was familiar with or spoke 25 languages, a good part of them being African languages.
If one is actually looking for relationships that are very deep between Africa and Asia, one has to actually go to the pre-colonial period. And literally for almost a millennium or even more than that, these two continents have been linked very substantially through trade, through movement, but very substantially through music. So this connection that he's talking about is not just a connection that is getting forged as a result of an anti-colonial feeling, but that anti-colonial connection itself, I believe, comes because there are these cultural nuances that resonate with each other. So in that sense, Afro-Asia as a concept is a very live and vibrant concept.
Just from the standpoint of his character, I think I would describe him as a complete human being. A complete human being who was always working to improve his capacity to stand up for the people of the world. He dealt with the Cold War and the reactionary forces in this country the way that he dealt with everything, heroically.
Right.
And when he was brought before the Committee on Un-American Activity in the Senate, he reminded these white men that his father was a slave, that his ancestors had been brought here from Africa, and that it was his people who built this country.
Robeson was really an abiding figure in that sense, and he was the face at one level that linked the different parts of the American radical movement. So the civil rights movement on the one hand and the union movement on the other. So he really was one of the faces, let me put it that way, who was representative of anti-imperialist struggles from the center of imperialism. But with somebody who actually did have a very close connection with the anti-colonial struggles in different parts of the world, and particularly, I mean, with India, he had a very special relationship. The instinctive affinity is something that has been quite remarkable. Particularly of African Americans, towards India.
He was a man of the people and influenced every figure that of the middle of the 20th century, every figure, especially in the Black movement, was touched by and influenced by and looked up to Paul Robeson. And I'm talking about figures like Martin Luther King Jr. You cannot imagine Martin Luther King Jr. without the zeitgeist created by Paul Robeson.
Indeed, in the world of uncertainty, as we witness today, we need to unite together for certainty and unite together against force of aggression and hegemony, keeping with the spirit of Paul Robeson. Robeson stood out as a warrior for peace and solidarity for people from China, India, and other developing countries and oppressed peoples. He upheld the fighting spirit against racism, colonialism, and Western supremacy. In the world today, the global South is moving decisively away from Western supremacy and its political narratives. It's therefore more meaningful to celebrate Paul Robeson's legacy and his link with the people from the developing world and all oppressed nations. The West doesn't have the right to commit wars, crimes, and new colonialism in the name of peace and human rights. Given the legacy of Paul Robeson, what we need to do today is to build a new international political culture of peace and human rights, so that the rigid Western perception and view of human rights and Cold War mentality will be put to an end, so that countries can really work together hand in hand and finally achieve more equality, justice, and peace.
You can't have war and peace at the same time. Either the United States will retreat from its belligerency, begin to roll back the 800 military bases, begin to seek a rapprochement with China and Russia, and by implication, Africa and India, because the war policies against China are policies to contain India. Are policies to keep Africa in the grip of neocolonialism.
China and India both share the trauma of colonialism and imperialism. There are strong needs between the two peoples from the two civilizational states to embrace peace and development and prosperity, and to challenge the existing Western liberal narratives and fight against new colonialism. It's crucial to promote more dialogues, communications among different civilizations and civilizational states. The West has long pursued a strategy of divide and rule since the colonial times, but we believe in just the opposite, one message from the Chinese philosophy, that is, unite and prosper rather than divide and rule, and which we believe is in the interest of greater peace and prosperity of all mankind.
He wanted to get at the, how would you say, that originary moment when humanity realizes itself as human. And that led him logically to the conclusion that world peace was not just necessary to preserve physical life or modern civilization, but the foundations of everything that is human.
Okay, now we'll move on to the main part of our program, which is the discussion and the musical performance. So we'll begin with the discussion. So I would like to invite our panel discussants and speakers on the stage, E.P. Menon, Uday Balakrishnan, and G. Ramakrishna. So, okay, so we'll begin with E.P. Menon ji, and it has been, I met him only recently, and it has been a real pleasure to meet with someone like him. And he is a peace activist. He was born in 1934. I'll keep the introduction short so we can actually hear from them. But he worked with Vinoba Bhave, the Bhudan movement. He undertook a global peace march on foot from Delhi to Moscow to Paris and to Washington. And it's 60 years from when he undertook that march this year. So that's another, mark. And he has worked tirelessly over the years for peace, including with the Gandhi Peace Foundation. He's established the Vishwanidham Center, which is just nearby in Vallabh Niketan. And he's also worked with other organizations, including the World Peace Council. And so I'll keep it short. I'll just ask you to give your initial remarks.
Our dear and respected friends, time is always our master. I'm conscious of that. So, today is one of the greatest moments for all of us because we are together remembering three great souls whose life went for peace and humanity. Robeson, Ramachandra, and Menon Ramachandra. So that united us together. At this moment, I must thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to speak a few words. When I read a statement by a great philosopher of the world in 1961, Bertrand Russell, he said, all my life I had three passions. First, creative passion, the physical human passion to create another being, sexual passion. Second, passion for knowledge, intellectual passion. Third, compassion for humanity. Three passions controlled my whole life. And through these three passions, I sought peace, which I never found. And remember that saying of Russell. So I thought, I should meet this man. I wrote a letter to him. Promptly I got an answer in 20 days from London. Then I wrote to another friend of his called Jawaharlal Nehru in Delhi. He also answered me, do according to your conviction. That was enough for me. So I said, I should go and meet four people. Khrushchev in Moscow, de Gaulle in Paris, Macmillan in London, and Kennedy, John Kennedy in Washington. Ask a simple question. Who gives you the authority to destroy the world through atom bombs? Hiroshima. I consider the graveyard of human civilization, Hiroshima. So I wanted to ask these four questions three questions. One question to these three, four people. I had no means, no aeroplanes, no jet, all that. So I decided to walk. That's my power. My legs have power. So from Delhi I started walking. It took 10 months for me to reach Moscow. 10 months. No money in my pocket. Because I didn't have no money. I didn't have any job or anything. One man who walked 20 years all over India, Vinoba Bhave, told me, don't depend on money. Money should be your slave, not your master. I believe that. So, after 10 months, I reached Moscow. I applied for a passport. There was a column. State your religion and caste in the passport application. I put red mark and said, humanity. I never got my passport. I still do not know where my passport application went from Bangalore. Delhi to Pakistan border 1 month. 2 days before reaching the border, started questions by newspapers. What will you do tomorrow? You are in India, tomorrow you are in Pakistan. I said, I will believe in borders. Problem solved. So, newspapers are writing on these stories. Next day, evening, passport was sent to me from Delhi by Foreign Ministry. That is success of peace and struggle for peace. Success. Before the passport came in my hand, Pakistan radio allowed visa granted by Radio Pakistan, mind you, 1962 I am talking. Where are we today in this world? All these great sacrifices they made, and all people assembled here wanting to have a better humanity. Where are we today? Is a big question, I think, which disturbs all of us. So, the first person I wanted to meet was Khrushchev in Moscow. Khrushchev came and replied, go and talk to Kennedy, bring him here, I will come sign the test balance agreement, nuclear weapons, not in the world. Okay, from Moscow to Paris, next person, 5 months to walk to Paris. No money, people took care of. In Paris, the president of France, de Gaulle, said, look, we never met. He wouldn't give a time. Through his secretaries. Paris doesn't believe in all these kind of things. We said, we will stand in front of the palace Elysee. Police came, 50 policemen to arrest and put me in prison in Paris. I said, I didn't come to Paris to eat, so I stopped eating. 4 days like this. Midnight, they put in the train and sent to England by train. This is the way the world behaves. Leaders behave. And in London, our guru, Bertrand Russell, we met him. We went to his house in a very small place in the hilltop. He was our inspiration. So then from London, British government informed us, we are ever ready if America and Russia prepare to ban the nuclear weapons. That was our demand. So from there we took a ship, Southampton, to New York. Queen Mary, one of the largest ships in the world. 4,000 passengers in the ship. 22nd November, I can remember the date. 22nd November, 11 o'clock we got in the ship. Started. 1 o'clock, lunch was served. Huge dining hall. We started eating. Then radio announcement, stop. President Kennedy is killed in Texas. Imagine that moment, everybody left the fork and knife and everybody felt the same sorrow. That is peace, that is humanity. that experience. Where is that today? They are all fighting on many things. Okay, 5 days later, landed in New York, then walked to Washington DC, that was the final saying, then to Hiroshima and Japan. President Johnson, his secretary said, if Russia agrees, we will agree. But unilaterally we cannot agree. So it is a if they, I. This is the argument always. When we traveled across America, met students in America, and took a ship to flight from San Francisco to Tokyo and walked to Hiroshima. 3 months Tokyo to Hiroshima. So this experience I am telling today, in the name of these 3 people who sacrificed their life, we are together. Civilization's graveyard, to my mind, was Hiroshima, is Hiroshima still. But today, India, we have 164 nuclear weapons at our disposal. For whose children? Whose sake? That is a question today we have to ask. Whom are we defending? Where is peace in the world? Is it possible? So for me, peace starts as a process and it should be a product. Individual peace, family peace, social peace, national peace, international peace. So today we are dealing with international peace. Struggle for peace and democracy. And when we are struggling for peace and democracy, we know there is one institution in the world called United Nations. It is a product of 2 world wars. The leaders decided we should have a new organization to prevent wars and create peace. UN. But then, what is UN doing? So today, in my mind, I am questioning, what is UN doing? So this question took me a month ago, 1st, 2nd, 3rd of May, just last month. I went to New York. I had a good friend of mine, a similar mad peacekeeping person in America called Dr. Glenn Martin. I told him, Glenn, come. So 2 of us went and stood in front of the UN. 1st, 2nd, 3rd May, just last month. 3 hours, every day, 3 days, we were standing like this. Our demands were 3. Abolish veto power. 5 countries in the world today, ultimate power. Abolish it. We are asking UN. Second, create a world government, not UN. Third, adopt a world constitution. That was our demand here, just last month. Now, is peace possible? Is a big question. Well, we can debate about it all our life, but I think 2 thoughts probably will shake the whole world if they are together. But many forces in the world are making it impossible for them to come together. Which are the 2 thoughts? One thought was given to us here by a man called Gandhi. Non-violent, non-cooperation against your enemies. Non-violent, non-cooperation. So, make your own clothes, charkha. Make your own food in the farm. Participate in production. But are we doing it? Second, all the workers in the world unite. You have nothing to lose, but you are changed. Who said that? Who wrote about it? A man called Marx. So can we think a united philosophy of Gandhi and Marx together for the future of humanity? This is my question today. So, I have 2 campaigns now. I'll stop for 5 minutes. One campaign is this. I told you, United Nations. We have a great lady sitting in New York today, our representative, India's representative. Her name is Ruchira Kamboj. Please write to her if you want. Ruchira Kamboj, her name. She's our representative. She's fighting, sitting in the UN as our representative, saying UN must change, reform. That is the kind of spirit we need to create. Take help and communicate. So, I went to Ruchira Kamboj, then I went to. I went to meet her, but she was not in the office, so I left some material in her office in New York and came back. So we need to work out a campaign against the UN for not doing its task for the sake of the society, for the sake of humanity, for which you are established. That is one task. Second task, probably, I think it's more difficult now, I am involved. 28th of May, last month. What happened in Delhi? We, India, 140 crores of people, 60,000 workers work day and night for 3 years, day and night in Delhi, to create our edifice of democracy called Parliament of India. Parliament does not belong to individual you and me. It belongs to the people of India, their labor. And then what happened that day? If you remember seeing the television or newspaper running, it became a puja room of one person. Indian Parliament, seat of democracy, inspiration of democracy, created by the people of India, in the name of democracy. What happened to that institution on 28th of May? I am taken by that. President of India, first citizen of India, our symbol of democracy of India, was nowhere. Forgotten, ignored. What was the President of India doing on that day, 28th of May? Last month. So I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of India, a great man, good man, nice man, very attractive, romantic. I wrote a letter to him. Why you ignore the President, avoided the President, insulted the President of India on 28th of May? I am waiting for an answer. And I said, I want a response from you to my question. That's all. Or, alternative, you please announce a public apology to the President of India. That's all. Prime Minister of India should make a public apology to the President of India for what he did on 28th of May. That's all. I wrote a letter. I'm waiting for an answer. Or a public apology in Delhi by newspapers or radio. If not, 1st of July, again I will write one more letter next. It's my action. That I will wait till 15th of August. Enough time for you. You are a busy person. You can write to me or make a public. Two options I have given in my letter. Either respond to me or make a public response. And I want an answer to the Prime Minister of India for neglecting the President of India. That's all. Simple question. If not, 15th of August, I want to take individual, non-violent, direct action. That's my message. Thank you so much for inviting me, for sharing these thoughts. Peace is a process and a product. And 3 people we remember today. And we are all together here, responsible Indian citizens wanting a world of humanity with peace and prosperity for all people, not me and you alone. Thank you.
Thank you, E.P. Banerjee. I'll next ask Dr. G. Ramakrishna to give his Dr. G. Ramakrishna is known, is known to many of us as Dr. GR, and he was a professor of English in National College, Bangalore, and he has been involved in the peace movement in Bangalore for a long time, including the Indo-Soviet Cultural Society, and he personally knew two of the people that we are honoring today, Robeson and Chandra. So we have asked him to give this remark.
Friends, within the 10 minutes allotted to me, I don't know how much I will be able to say. College teachers are used to 60-minute lecturing, not 10 minutes of submissions. I think I shall start with one particular anecdote of the early 1970s, when the World Peace Council had its conference in Paris. Paul Robeson was supposed to participate in this conference, but the government of the United States of America did not allow him to leave the country and proceed to France. So what the World Peace Council did was to request him to reach the border between Canada and the United States. There they made arrangements to have Robeson singing, and it was directly relayed to the World Peace Conference in Paris. That was the kind of dynamism that this man possessed, and that was the kind of commitment he had to peace and solidarity. I'm very happy that some of our friends are once again bringing the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization into some kind of fun activity. There was a time when we used to have regular meetings, conferences, so many agitations. I don't want to spend time on that. What are the questions which we were usually discussing during these meetings? Others would say confabulations. We used to have this question of what is called the new economic order in the world. The United States officially declared that there is nothing like a new economic order. As representatives of the people of the world, the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization, together with a few sister organizations, demanded that without a change in the economic order in the world, there wouldn't be peace in the sense in which we understand it and in the sense in which we need it. Today, that economic order has been in shambles. We go to a country and then barter away the interests of our country. And then we pat ourselves on the back and say that we have become the global leaders, the Vishwa Gurus, as if the world were waiting for a Messiah to come and deliver the world into, I don't know what. The need of the hour is to once again focus attention on matters like the economic order for the world. Because several of the maladies flow from the absence of a rational, pro-people, global economic order policy. These are the kind of questions that we are concentrating on. Or we used to discuss Diego Garcia, it was mentioned a little while ago. It was a populated island, it was depopulated, and then nuclear warheads are what we find on Diego Garcia today. Only a few miles, a few minutes away from the Indian coastal border in the south. Nuclear weapons in Diego Garcia. For close to 4 or 5 years, we had a national campaign, the global campaign, under the aegis of the World Peace Council and the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization against Diego Garcia. that the Indian Ocean should be an ocean, a zone of peace and all that. What is it that we have before us today? Yesterday the newspapers said that the government of the United States of America is very eager to grant us the status of a member in the NATO 5 group. What are we going to do as members of the NATO? Today there is a report in the newspaper suggesting that the friendship with America is going to give us enough strength to meet any onslaught from China. We were always thinking that we should be friendly with all countries, including China and the United States of America. A country which offered the nuclear umbrella during the 1962-65 period, which was politely refused by the government of India. Today, unofficially, that umbrella is very much there on our heads, more as a disgrace than as a help. We have those questions to once again take up, launch public opinion movements. So, because peace has been shattered into pieces. You have Palestine, Sudan, Manipur. Yesterday in Manipur there was a procession in which a Manipur lady walked with a stick in hand naked. Manipur had done it in the past. This naked woman wants to demand from the government of India what is just for the people of Manipur. That's part of the agenda of the peace movement. Ultimately, it is for people's welfare that we have these organizations like the Robeson World Peace Council. Several years ago, during the 1970s and early 1980s, we had several members of parliament as activists of the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization. They used to voice certain opinions that were quite acceptable to the World Peace Council and the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization. But in the early 90s, when there was a shift in the foreign policy, not one of them raised his or her voice in parliament. I remember several of those members of parliament who used to be delegates in our conferences. I have attended a number of conferences along with them. Not one of them raised even a feeble voice against this kind of change that was occurring. We always used to think that these members, along with other members of the public in the Solidarity Organization, were going to thwart any attempt leading us into the camp of the imperialists. But we have landed, and that is where the task today lies. The All India Peace and Solidarity Organization, World Peace Council always used to remind people about a particular statement that Salvador Allende had made in the United Nations. He had said, peace in the context of Chile is the ownership of copper by the people of the country. Kuki, Manipur. The other day somebody was saying that the Kukis are sitting on cobalt. It is that cobalt which is the attraction for the people who want to be merchants. Say then they must destroy the cookies in order to have the cobalt. Just as they had to kill Salvador Allende in order to have the copper. If Anaconda Company has to survive, Allende must be killed. How many more are going to be killed in this world along these lines for such purposes is something that we have to be worried about. What I am suggesting is that we need to be vociferous once again. And somehow or the other, once again, we must ensure that there is public consciousness in favor of peace. Of course, peace we had in plenty in Ravi Shankar's ashram, in Yogi Adityanath's palace, so on. That is not the kind of peace we want. Peace where people can live together, to be creative, to pay attention to their several cultures, to ensure that there is happiness for the people. That is the manifesto of the Peace and Solidarity Organization, of the World Peace Council. I used to know Romesh Chandra and Menon very intimately. I worked with them for several years. Romesh Chandra used to say, a change is close by. In fact, we used to crack jokes about that sometimes with him. It is round the corner, but will not be going to reach the corner. We shall. Robeson sang that song also. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. And once again see that the movement for peace becomes as strong as we wanted it to be. The World Peace Council had the status of a sovereign country. Romesh Chandra would be the state guest wherever he went. That was the dignity and the recognition that the World Peace Council had. And we as an organ of the World Peace Council similarly had our own ambitions, our own struggles and so on. I only hope that we shall once again renew this struggle because it is more required today than ever before. Do we want to become NATO +5? Or do we want to be an independent sovereign republic? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jia. And finally, I will call upon Dr. Uday Balakrishnan. Dr. Uday Balakrishnan was earlier part of the Indian Postal Service. He was director in charge of child and human labor in the Ministry of Labor. He has served as registrar and has taught at the Indian Institute of Science. He writes regularly for the Hindu and other outlets on various subjects, including our relationship with our neighbors, India's governance, and so on. So I'll ask him to give his remarks.
Thank you very much, Raju and Dr. Raju. And you'll have to excuse me if I slur a little because I'm in between some dental surgeries. So let me put that across to you straight away. The two distinguished speakers before me have spoken at length about peace in this world, about trying to negate the impact of imperialism and colonialism and to remain independent and not to fall for one group or the other. In fact, the group that they refer to is the United States and NATO and other countries like that. And I really admire the spirit with which this has been done. But before that, let me pay a big tribute to all the young people here who are doing science and who is the category I teach public policy and contemporary history to in the Indian Institute of Science. And I'm simply amazed and very impressed at the extraordinary interest you're taking in things which are not exactly in your line of research. So congratulations to you, and I hope you'll increase that group. And many of you, or most of you, are from NCBS, which has a long tradition of looking at social sciences in a different way, looking at science through the eyes of social sciences also. It's got an amazing archive which has developed there, and it has got people who work on diverse things, and the topics on which you have engagements are not just scientific. So a big congratulations to NCBS, and I hope other institutions will emulate it. The Indian Institute of Science itself has got a thriving public policy program, and it's got a great deal of interest in this. And a number of lectures have come across in which many prominent people have spoken. So I think these engagements by the scientific community, which is becoming increasingly important for this country, with humanities, with what is going on in the world, will carry on. Now, I try my best to keep it short, but I must say why I am here. But before that, let me ask at least 3 young people what happened tomorrow on the 25th of June some years ago. Young people, I mean anybody under 45. One of you. I count till 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now that's over, your chance is over. And in fact, I would have put it to the rest of the audience, but I'm sure they might know about it. Tomorrow was the day 48 years ago that we had an emergency declared by Indira Gandhi, a democratically elected Prime Minister of India. And when it was declared, I just joined the civil services and I was going to the National Academy of Administration, Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration in Mussoorie. And I had invited 2 of my friends to accompany me. And I was living in the Gandhi Peace Foundation, in fact. It's because of him I came to know Mr. E.P. Menon, and I paid him a visit when he was at an age where my son is today, about 43, 45. So imagine, and I was a callow 24-year-old with stars in my eyes, with revolution in my mind, and I was going to join the civil services. It's an extraordinary, a very complicated relationship with my son. But anyway, I met Mr. E.P. Menon then, and I'm delighted that I was delighted to find that he was going to speak at this event today. And one of the main reasons why I came here was because I'd get an opportunity to meet him again. So thank you very much for coming along, and I'm deeply grateful to you for this meeting with you, and also for this organization. Now I will come up to a couple of points which I think are of importance. Why do we need to get together with our neighbors? This has been engaging me for the past 10 years when I teach public policy, and I'm cutting to the chase. I'm just bringing my point of view forward across without too much of discussion on that. Why should we be friends? Why should we start moving towards accommodating the concerns of our neighbors and getting them to accommodate ours? We will start with the big engagement which we have, and not a very happy engagement with Pakistan. Why are we fighting Pakistan? Why is Pakistan fighting us? On this I've written extensively. But the main point is that South Asia is not prospering because it hasn't created what the Europeans, after killing 100 million of themselves, created the European Union. What ASEAN, so desperate, has created as a regional entity. Now just look at the economies of these countries. The European Union, if it had not become the European Union, these European countries would be at war again. They'll be fighting every now and then. When I was a visiting fellow in Hungary, and I remember celebrating a New Year with the Hungarians, and I don't know what happened at 12 o'clock at night, I found everybody weeping. I asked, why are you weeping? I mean, they were all copious tears, men, women, children, all the Hungarians were weeping. I said, why are you weeping? They said, oh, there was that Treaty of Trianon, 1920, so much of our land was lost. But I said, you're part of the European Union. You can go and buy any amount of land in Romania or any of the republics, neighboring republics which got part of your land. Oh, no, that's not enough. That land belongs to us. So anyway, but all the same, the European Union has distinguished itself in several fronts. It's got a thriving human rights activity going. It has got an extraordinary democracy going in very undemocratic states also, in whatever way people don't want to live it, and it is very rich, probably at about 22 billion a trillion in GDP, just next to the United States, and probably a little behind China now. But the same. That's the kind of wealth and that's the kind of prosperity and the kind of accommodations that are being forced on them by themselves that is making the European Union live together in peace since the Second World War. Similarly, the Asian, which has less than half our population, has created an economy which is much bigger than ours in GDP. Its people are educated, its people are not quarreling with each other, and it is having a thriving economic base from which it can carry on. But why is India not? India is the largest country in South Asia, obviously, we all know that. Why isn't it taking the initiative to create a South Asian Union? It is at the top of our priority if we want peace, and it is at the top of our priority if we want an accommodation with China also at some stage. This is my view, very what I would say, very undiplomatic view, but I think we need to bring ourselves together as a South Asian entity before we start dealing with the rest of the world. It's a very important thing. Simply because we have what is the strength India has. India has got an extraordinary young population. So does South Asia. It has got the world's largest number of poor, the largest number of undereducated people. But India itself has a lot to be proud about. This is where the contradictions start. Where the British left us in 1947 to now, it's been an amazing achievement, but it's not enough. We need to move a little further, and we need to create and lift South Asia to its true economic potential, because it has the world's largest number of young, and it is going to remain so up to 2060. So we have a small window, about 20 to 30 years more, to educate our people. If only we decide to make education a priority. And that has been something which I have been looking at quite a bit in my studies. Education today, what does it do to India? We have the highest enrollment rate at the primary level. Around 300 million students enter primary schools every year. Half of them drop out, and half of that reaches the higher secondary level, and less than half of that reaches the higher secondary level. So in effect, we are creating a system to fail. We have more number of primary schools, we have less number of middle schools and secondary schools, and we have even less number of higher secondary schools. So altogether, it's a pyramid in the sense that you have a large base from which you are creating a large mass of undereducated, under-trained people. This is important for us to tackle, and we need to put in a lot more money into this than we are putting in now. Our investment in education is pathetic, as our investment in health is also pathetic. But it has improved, but we have reached a certain level of literacy. There is an elite that has come up in India, which many of you in NCBS, IASC and all represent. And I think it is important for you to speak to people down the line saying that our institutions should engage with schools much more intimately than we are doing so now, and create a climate of optimism that people can rise from the bottom and a lot more can come up. I don't know how many of you have heard of Pratham. It's an NGO which deals with education. And it comes as a surprise. I dealt with Pratham when I was dealing with child labor. I was heading the child labor program and the child labor elimination program in India. What I noticed was that Pratham, people will come to me from that often, and I have discussions with them. It's amazing that a student in the 8th standard, average student in the 8th standard, only 25 or 30% of them could read a 2nd standard text. Can you believe that? So being in the 8th standard doesn't mean anything. It means something that you can't read a 2nd standard text. And 44 of them could not do basic mathematical calculations that were there for the 2nd standard or 3rd standard. So it is at that pathetic level. I'll just take 5 or 10 more minutes if you don't mind. 5 okay? Yeah, we'll come to that. So I'll just leave this with this thought. Okay, I don't need to leave with too many thoughts. About China also, I'll come to that towards a conclusion. I would urge NCBS and all the other institutions which are more fortunate to immediately come up and engage the schools around them to lift their own quality of education. And the second point I'm making is, why do we need a peace with China? We really don't have a huge quarrel with China. We have a border conflict which should be settled early. but unfortunately it's not being settled as much by a Chinese fear. Let's not lessen China's role in this. It has an amazing complex that the world has done it in over a century of humiliation, which is true. But they have a conflict with every country, and the latest piece of land they are claiming is Okinawa as our own. So I think, but the important reason why we need to arrive at a peace with China is environmental. The third pole is there. I mean, we have a tremendous environmental problem that is staring down South Asia and China, and we need to deal with it together. If only for that reason we should come together. So I'll stop here. I've talked about education. I talked about why we should make up with China, and I'm deeply grateful to you all for having listened to me patiently beyond my time limit. Thank you so much, and good day.
Thank you very much to all three of our speakers. Now we really wanted to keep some time to hear from the audience. So if any of you would like to say something about what the speakers have said, or any aspect related to peace or Paul Robeson, or raise any questions based on the speakers' remarks, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot to all the speakers. I'm Anton from National Center for Biological Sciences. I'm currently a PhD student there. It was really inspiring and particularly motivating, the past histories that you have recounted, as well as your experiences. I'm actually curious with certain points that I've noted down, particularly in the case of education, right? Okay, so there are so many questions in my head right now, but I'd start with one is, which I think would be the most important one. What exactly should be a strategy, right? Where, for let's say a 28-year-old person, right, who's just finishing a PhD, right, with and then thinking for also contributing to this effort, but not having the capital, not having the and then to contribute in whatever way is possible to the community as such. So having known your experiences and having looked through them, yes, there is a huge interest to immediately go ahead and do something, but then to also make it sustainable. That is something that has been running in my head.
Maybe if there are a few other remarks, we can take them. Yeah. After this,
hello everybody. I came in a bit late, so I think I missed Mr. Menon. I'm sorry. I'll talk to you later to catch up with what you said. So basically, I would like to raise the same concerns as the young man before me. How do we do this at different stages without feeling the pressure of other things that take over life, having an income, etc. Do you think the time has come for a movement of citizens of India? Because I'm really losing faith with our leaders, and I don't look up to them to really peace build, because right now I'm thinking everybody is doing war building. So can we have an active citizens movement with all the young people and the senior people driving it? I think the time has come for that.
Maybe one more from
Very thankful for the organizers. They have done a wonderful job. Nice to see so many people united for this cause. And all the three speeches were extremely interesting. However, I think the focus of this peace movement will have to be defined very sharply. And I found those suggestions from Dr. G.R. very useful for the movement. The peace is threatened by whom? We are talking of world peace, not family peace or peace at the institution. World peace. So, who is endangering it? What I say is, some of you may feel very old hat, very old proposition, but sometimes we have to remember those old propositions again. The war is generated by what? Is it the vanity of individuals or the crisis of market and the imperialist thirst for expansion of market? So who is the main problem for the peace movement? Unless we identify that, imperialism and particularly American imperialism, the picture definitely is not as clear as in 1960s when we could accuse only America. Today, some of us may feel like accusing Russia, some of us may feel like accusing China. But let us not get confused. Still, the country with maximum nuclear warheads, maximum bases all over the world, and the threat to Palestine or the problems in Sudan, which both the issues mentioned by Dr. Jia, these are generated by America. So the focus will have to be there. And the peace movement is not just an appeal for pacifism. Peace movement is a militant peace movement. Though the words may appear contradictory, it is a militant quest for peace. And that we cannot do without identifying our enemies and friends. The friends will remain the toiling people of the world, and the enemy will remain imperialism. So again and again, the peace movement will have to remind itself who are its allies and who are its enemies. Thank you very much.
Maybe one last for you. Right ahead of you.
Well, my name is Paul Raj. I am resembling Paul Robeson, and I am also an activist. I just want to tell you one important point. I'm an IT officer based in Delhi. I moved to Bangalore. When people market things, people think, what do everybody wants? Then sell your product. And I would suggest that when you propagate something, there must be transparency. And in our country, unusually, there's no transparency. Politicians tell lies and then go to other country and then explain things the other way. And media is very, very important because I'm from IT side. Media, I want the youngsters and the older and all around here, please address your views through media. Media is more effective. People win elections through media only. Of course, through lies also. But we have to be transparent. I am very grieved to say, in some of the government sites, there are exaggerated facts, there are lies. Unlike in some countries, we are not transparent and frank. I would ask everyone to be transparent when we tell about facts. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe you can respond to some of this. Anyone of you? Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
ಇದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಭಾಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮೆನನ್ ಅವರು, ಬಾಲಕೃಷ್ಣ ಅವರು, ಜಿ ಆರ್ ಅವರು ಭಾಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಲೇಟ್ ಆಯಿತು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಲೇಟ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಪಂಚಾದ್ಯಂತ ಉರಿತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ನಾವು ಪ್ರತಿ ಸಾರಿನೂ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಾಗಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೇ ಆಗಲಿ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲೇನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ನೇ ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟಿವ್, ಇದನ್ನು ಮುಂದುವರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. ಇದನ್ನು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಲೆವೆಲಿಗೆ ತೊಗೊಂಡೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಲೆವೆಲಿಗೆ ತೊಗೊಂಡೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ? ಇವಾಗ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಒಳ್ಳೇದು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ.
ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತನಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಹಳ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಯ್ತು. ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂಥ ವಿಷಯ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಜಿಜ್ಞಾಸೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕಡೆಗೆ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಉಳ್ಳವರು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಥಾನವನ್ನು ಭದ್ರಪಡಿಸ್ಕೋತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ದುರುಪಯೋಗಪಡಿಸ್ಕೋತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಜನತಾ ಚಳವಳಿಗಳು ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ರಿಯಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಪ್ರತಿರೋಧ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದ ಸಂದರ್ಭ ನಮಗೆ ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಬೇರೆಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂಥದ್ದು. ನಾನು ದಿನನಿತ್ಯ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಹಿಂಸೆ ಇತ್ಯಾದಿಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲ ತಮ್ಮ ಯಾಕೆ ಅದು ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಕಾರಣವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಗುರುತಿಸದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಆ ಕಾರಣದ ನಿವಾರಣೆ ಆಗದೆ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಷ್ಟೆ. ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರೋ ಹೆಂಗಸರಿಗೆ ಬಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಪುಕ್ಕಟೆ ಹೋಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ದೇಶ ಮುಳುಗೋಯ್ತು. 10 ಲಕ್ಷ ಕೋಟಿ ರೂಪಾಯಿಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಲೂಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದಾಗ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವರ ಬರಲಿ, ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಈ ಅಮ್ಮ 10-15 ಪೈಸೋ 2 ರೂಪಾಯೋ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಇದರಿಂದ ದೇಶ ಹಾಳಾಗೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ನೀತಿ ಹದಗೆಟ್ಟೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೊರೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹೊರೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಎಂತೆಂಥ ಹೊರೆ ಹೊತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾಳೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಕಾಳಜಿ ಬೇಡವಾ? ಅದರಿಂದ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶ ಅನ್ನತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು ಏಕಪಕ್ಷೀಯವಾಗಿ ಸೀಮಿತವಾದಂಥ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಹೇಗೆ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ವಲಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ದೇಶವನ್ನು NATO 4, NATO 5 ಅಂತ ಸೇರಿಸ್ಕೊತೀವಿ. ಉಕ್ರೇನ್ದು ಅದೇ ಶುರುವಾದ ಹಾಗೇನೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ. ನೇಟೋಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬೇಸ್ ಕೊಡು ನೀನು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಕೊಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ದ್ವಂದ್ವ ಇದೆ, ಘರ್ಷಣೆ ಆರಂಭ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈಗ ಅದೆಷ್ಟು $1 ಟ್ರಿಲಿಯನ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ದೇಶನ ಉದ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿದ್ಧ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾಶ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಉದ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾಶನೇ ಮಾಡದೆ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ ನೇಟೋ ಬೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಮಧ್ಯಪ್ರವೇಶ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಅನಾಹುತ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ತಾನೇ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕಾಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ರಷ್ಯಾ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಸರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಉಕ್ರೇನ್ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ಅಮೆರಿಕ. ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಘರ್ಷಣೆಗಳು ಒಂದಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ನಡೀತಾನೇ ಇರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆರ್ಮಮೆಂಟ್ ರೇಸು, ಆರ್ಮಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ನು ಇತ್ಯಾದಿಗಳನ್ನು ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಇದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸಾವಿರಾರು ದಾಖಲೆಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಿಂದೆ ಹೊರತಂದಿದೆ. ರೋಲಿಯೋ ಕ್ಯೂರಿ ಅಂತವರು, JD ಬರ್ನಾಲ್ ಅಂತವರು ಅತಿ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಳು. ಈ ವಿಷಯಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶೇಷವಾದಂಥ ಅಧ್ಯಯನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಏರುಪೇರಿನಿಂದಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ಪರ್ಧೆಯಿಂದಾಗಿ ಶಾಂತಿಗೆ ಧಕ್ಕೆ ಉಂಟಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಅಧ್ಯಯನ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೀಮಿತ ವಲಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದ ವಿಷಯದ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ನಮ್ಮ ಅರ್ಥಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಜ್ಞರು ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೋ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ಹೇಗಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೈನ್ ಹಾಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೈನ್ ಹಾಕೋ ಹಂತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಹೋದ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯರು ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾಪ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ನ್ಯೂ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ, ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೊದಲೇ. 8 ವೆರೈಟೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಹಮಾಲಿ ಮಗನಿಗೊಂದು, ಇನ್ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು. ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಕರಿಕ್ಯುಲಮ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಇದೆ. ನಾಳೆ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರು ಸ್ಪರ್ಧಿಗಳಾಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಸ್ಪರ್ಧೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ವಿಜೇತರಾಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತೇ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ವಲಯದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಏನು ನ್ಯೂನತೆಗಳಿವೆ, ಯಾರ ಪರವಾದಂಥ ಶಾಸನಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇದನ್ನೇ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಿಸ್ತರಿಸಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ವಿಶ್ವದ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಇದರ ಪ್ರತಿಫಲನೆಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕಾಣ್ತೇವೆ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾನ್ಯರು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಆದ್ಯತೆ ಮತ್ತು ವೈಜ್ಞಾನಿಕವಾದಂಥ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಮಾನವಾದಂಥ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಮತ್ತು ಸಮಾನ ಅವಕಾಶಗಳಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಇದು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಏರುಪೇರುಗಳಿವೆ, ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಕಾರಣಗಳಿವೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊರದೇಶಗಳ ಕೈವಾಡ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, ನಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಲೂಟಿ ಮಾಡಿ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮೊತ್ತ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಇತ್ಯಾದಿಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪರಾಮರ್ಶೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಇವತ್ತಿಗಿಂತಲೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕ್ರಿಯಾಶೀಲ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು.
If there are more, or any of you would like to say something, there's more.
There was one question that he had asked, it's easy to get here, about how can we involve ourselves, it's very expensive. I just want to quickly remind you that one institution has started this. I had gone to the Indian Institute of Sciences Chellikere campus, which is about 200 kilometers from here. And a tremendous initiative is going on there, but it is on a small scale. In fact, I met the director to scale it up. They train teachers in STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and from all over the country. And there's a great passion for that. And the person's name you probably know is Professor D.N. Rao. He was the former Dean of the Biological Sciences in the Indian Institute of Science. I think you should contact him. It's a great opportunity to improve the quality of the teachers, to improve the quality of the students. And in fact, before him, the man who pioneered the whole thing was Professor Hegde, and he had done a great job of training these teachers, assessing what the impact was after they went back to their places. You won't believe it has been just a few days training, about 2 weeks training, has dramatically improved the quality of education and the quality of results in the institutions where they teach. And I think this is one way you can certainly involve yourself. I'm talking passionately about this because intimately a society which is contented, which has got employment, which is not in want, is always the kind of peace, a kind of world that we will create, which is much more peaceful than otherwise. I'll take only one more minute. There's a response to, there's been a lot of talk about the United States, about NATO and other things. Now, I would also like you see, I'm always looking at both sides. I don't like what the United States is doing. I don't like what the way it's ringing the world with its bases. I have studied with Americans, and in fact, there was one instance when I was in a very small school. They came, many of my classmates came to my house. They got hold of a frog, and they killed it, calling it Purishya, which was very brutal for about 8 to 10-year-olds to do. Before I knew what was happening, they had done that. So the extent of dislike for each other and a misunderstanding is extraordinary. But don't blame NATO alone. And this is something which I'm talking very passionately, because at every country does an enormous amount of good and an enormous amount of harm. No country in this world, no two countries in this world have harmed their own citizens more than the USSR and China. You know the Great Leap Forward. You know what happened in the Great Famine. There are two beautiful accounts of it, and I talked to many Chinese who have talked to me also, and they were absolutely aghast at the 30 million people who were killed. Their one-child policy has been so destructive that it is really going to undo everything that China has achieved in the past 40 years. That's one. The Soviet Union briefly, under Stalin, went into a mode where it killed millions, more than Hitler, in fact. In fact, Stalin is viewed as a greater monster than Hitler. 28 million people dying in gulags and persecutions and prosecutions was amazing. And I met many of the Russians who had escaped such prosecution. And my own, and the person with whom I interacted very closely, with whom I worked very closely until he died, was one Professor Uday Balakrishnan, who was a very leftist Israeli citizen who was president of the Central European University in Budapest. Now, one thing, he was in Auschwitz and he came out. The extent of cruelty that is inflicted on people everywhere is extraordinary. America has got the largest number of prisoners in their prisons, largest number of people in prison than any other country in the world. So these are all very debatable. We have to go. Don't get digressed. I mean, my advice, I mean, it's a small advice I'm telling you, but I suppose I can give an advice to a much younger audience here. My advice is see both sides of the picture. Today, if a man is to be exiled from anywhere in the world, whether it's India, where does he head? He doesn't head to the Soviet Union or to China. He heads straight to the United States or to the West. See, what has happened is there is a tremendous change in the attitude in the West also to human rights, and which we are very annoyed with. And I think we need to see both sides of the picture, what both have done to each other's, their own people and to the rest of the world. America has done immeasurable harm in Iraq, in Afghanistan and all that. And the reverse, and the way the countries like China and Russia have done it is to their own people. They harm themselves much more than they harm the rest of the world perhaps. So I think we need to arrive at a certain balance on this. This is my appeal to you all. Thank you very much.
I want to make a suggestion. Since we are all together thinking of the future, there are two organizations officially established by nation states, SARC, 7, 8 countries together, then BRICS, 5 countries together. So, can we, maybe from this audience, maybe 5 people, work on a possible thing? Maybe next year or next year, go to Delhi, meet the representatives of these 7 plus 1, 12 countries, BRIC countries and SARC countries together in Delhi. They are all ambassadors and others. And say, how can we create a new tricontinental conference? Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Call it tricontinental. We have some idea here. Then, tricontinental people's movement. So we developed from ISO to World Union, etc., etc., etc. Then we have India-China Association. We had also the Indo-Soviet Society. All that was there, encouraging us. So if we can create a people's movement within these BRICS and SARC together, with a new idea for the world. Why I am saying this, I want to mention 2 things. 3 years ago, when I landed in Beijing, November 6th, beautiful sunshine, beautiful atmosphere. I was wearing white shirt. The driver who came to pick me up 3 years ago in Beijing, don't you feel cold? I said, no, I'm feeling happy, very nice atmosphere. He didn't believe. He took his fluffy red jacket and put it over me and said, you have come to China for the first time. As long as you are in China, you should be comfortable. He put that overcoat on me. Okay. Simple man, driver in Beijing, the first city that I met is Beijing, okay? 3 days later, I had to go to Shanghai. I took this and gave it to him. He will not take it. Then he says to me, that's what the Bangalore. India and China are 2 great human civilizations. The driver, simplest man, tells me in China, India and China are 2 great civilizations. We should never fight. We should together create a new human civilization. What best message I can get from China, from a simple citizen of China? This is in my mind. One instant. Another instant, leadership. Who is a true leader? In my mind, the greatest leader in the world I have associated with is Fidel Castro. Why? 1966. I'm the only Indian, I'm proud to say that, who had the chance of climbing a mountain with Castro in Cuba. 1 month I was there. So one day he called about 20 young people. I have a question. your young people come from other countries. In my mind, I have a problem. We in India, Cuba, we eat rice and beans and all that. But rice is very scarce here. We don't have enough rice. Other things we have. So we are getting 50,000 tons of rice from China to Cuba. 50,000 tons. It is coming to Cuba after 1 week. The ship is on the way. But in my mind, I feel 1960s we are talking, okay? Today, Cubans, we can survive on beans. But the people in the world who most importantly need rice is people in Vietnam. They are fighting the mightiest nation in the world. Vietnam fighting America. And you know, the only country in the world fought and defeated America was Vietnam. That's history. So, in my mind, I feel that rice, 50,000 ton rice coming to Cuba, I want to send it to Vietnam, but I don't know what my people say. So you are coming from different countries, about 20 people were there. We were on the mountain top, not in Havana. What do you feel about it? Everyone said, reason. Please send it to Vietnam. Please send it. We said the same. He was happy. That evening, he talked in a public meeting of 30,000 people. He said this to them and asked the people of Cuba, what do you feel should I do? Fiddle, send it to Vietnam. Fiddle, send it to Vietnam. That is true leadership of the world. I want India to play such a role. All our neighbors should be with us and create a new human civilization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We want to stick to the schedule, so we'll wrap up the discussion with this and move on to the cultural performance. So thank you again to all our speakers and to all of you for listening. After this, immediately after this, we'll just remove this and we'll begin the cultural performance, which will be music. And so I'll introduce the performance right after we move this off the stage. So please keep sitting. We'll just take a few minutes. Okay, so we are going to begin, so I would ask people to come back and take their seats. This will be by the Bangalore Musical Association. The Bangalore Musical Association has a 100-year history, and in 1964, Maestro J.T. William Joseph became director and conductor of the BMA, and he significantly expanded it. The Bangalore Musical Association does a wide variety of songs, including choral music, opera, and Indian folk songs. Dr. Ashley William Joseph, who is with us as the present director, he is trained in music in the Philippines and he has conducted an Asian chorale. I really want to thank the Musical Association for being so generous. I feel your contribution to this is really in the spirit of Paul Robeson, who was somebody who was very generous as an artist. And so I want to thank you again for your generous contribution to this.
Lead Joseph and the Bangalore Musical Association, I would like to thank Nandita, Raju and the All India Peace and Solidarity Organization for inviting us to be a part of the Intercivilizational Peace and Democracy Project, honoring the life and legacy of Paul Robeson and our own struggles. The BMA has always supported peace and global harmony through musical concerts over the years, and it is indeed our pleasure to be here today with all of you. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you again, thank you very much. And I would like to say that, Paul Robeson became famous on the world stage because he sang the what were called the Negro spirituals or African American spirituals, which were, songs that came out of slavery and songs of struggle essentially. And I want to thank the Bangalore Musical Association and Dr. Ashley and all of you once again for this wonderful performance.